Are you ready for some pee-pee?
I like it. Yeah, I haven't always remembered this in the past couple
Takes
of
me
times.
back. Takes me
Yes,
back.
to a much more innocent time.
Yeah, well,
Heather
about
Parton,
that.
Digby, always a pleasure. We're back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigland, and back with us, Heather Parton, the proprietor of Hullabaloo and, of course, the columnist at salon.com. Heather, there's probably 12 things that we could talk about on any given Friday over the course of the past, I don't know, certainly 15 years on this show and the 20 years we've been talking about. Any one of these would have been a full discussion. But that's the nature of the of Trump administration 2.0. The assaults on our government, our laws. Like, I'm just thinking, like, as we went over stuff at the break, we didn't even mention, like, oh, we're probably planning an invasion of Venezuela. And we're just unilaterally blowing up boats in the Caribbean of what appears to be, at least by reports from Venezuela and other places, just, for the most part, fishermen. We really don't know. But let's start with the government shutdown.
Okay.
This is I have to say that in terms of like the messaging and in terms of Democrats maintaining some cohesion and unity and also getting out the message, we just played a clip of AOC and Bernie from their town hall Wednesday night. And there was an opportunity to talk about how Russ Vogt is illegally firing all of, the 10,000, the latest tranche of employees, which of course has been going on for 8 months, but hasn't gotten the sort of like the urgent coverage that it deserves. And now we're seeing that. What's your sense of how this is going?
Well, I just wrote a piece about this. I think so far the polls have been showing that people are blaming the Republicans at least slightly more than the Democrats. That's logical. They're in charge of everything. The Democrats are ciphers, up until now. So you can understand why people, even Republicans, would say that. I think that it's, amazing but wonderful that the Democrats have decided that they needed to actually take a stand on something, and that they are pulling together, and that they're doing that, and that they're messaging pretty effectively. I think, we heard that they had chosen this healthcare, framework for their, the ACA subsidies and the Medicaid, for their reasoning, for their rationale for for refusing to vote for the continuing resolution. I was a little skeptical because I thought, it just doesn't seem big enough. It seems too ordinary. It seems like something that happened, this could have been 10 years ago talking. And it was in 2013.
Yep.
We had a shutdown over the Affordable Care Act, and it lasted 17 days. I mean, this, it seemed like, a little Groundhog Day to me. But I'm realizing as I'm watching this go on that it's actually there's a different resonance now. And it has to do with what you said, Sam, about the fact that these layoffs, which we've never seen anything like this before in a shutdown, the idea of we're just going to, fire everybody. We're not, and Trump even out there saying it's going to be all Republican programs. We're going to get rid of them permanently and stuff like that. No one ever said that before. But it's more than that. I think one of the reasons why the healthcare thing, aside from the grim reality of these subsidies going up and people starting to get notices that are going to say, these gargantuan price hikes that they're going to get on the ACA subsidies, and the notion that there's been more press, I think, than we realize on the local level about the effect of the Medicaid cuts on rural hospitals and things like that. That word has been kind of seeping out ever since the big bill was passed. So I think that's all to the good. But I think there's something bigger than that. I think a lot of this is just the dysfunction. Shouldn't even call it dysfunction, because it's really not, the chaos of the Trump administration so far is starting to make its way into the public consciousness. People who aren't paying a lot of attention, people who are just, they're going, wait a minute, what the hell is going on here? And I think that some of that, when in terms of healthcare, has to do with what I'm calling the RFK effect. What he's doing, I mean, this is no longer just about health insurance. It's no longer about your bills. It's you like your kitchen table issues. There's a kitchen table issue out there, called cancer research, pediatric, cancer research. Things like Donald Trump going out in front of standing behind the podium and screaming, "Don't take Tylenol." Like, what the hell is he talking about? This weird stuff like what they did yesterday with Dr. Oz and Trump out there saying, "Have more babies." And I think this stuff is starting to sort of look like it's not just about health insurance, it's about the whole healthcare system. And that makes people very, very nervous, because as much as people hated the American healthcare system in terms of lack of access, they're really going to hate it when they find out that it's really a terrible, terrible system, because we no longer have the best and the brightest doing research. The universities, research centers are being shut down. So I think it's a subtext, this chaos, the fact that they're tearing down the whole healthcare system, the fact that you have this Russ vote thing. I know that everybody's, the press is being terrible about explaining the Russ vote gambit, I think. Because we talked about it, all of us talked about it before the election, that Project 2025, what it was. And this was the main thrust of it, was what Steve Bannon used to call the dismantling of the administrative state, right? Yep. This was what he said, and this is going back to 2016. And Russ Vogt wrote it all out on paper. We all read it. And it was in, very accessible English. And any reporter could have read it too, which said that they were going to do exactly what they're doing. And they started off with Doge. Russ Votes carried it on. All of this idea that somehow this has something to do with the shutdown is nonsense. Russ Votes been doing it. He's going to continue doing it. And right now they just think they're being cute, and they're blaming the Democrats for the shutdown, and it's their fault that people are being fired. But I don't think people are buying it. I wrote a thing, it hasn't published yet, for Salon, where in the AP NORC poll, the AP story about their poll, they quoted a woman, Trump voter, big Trump supporter, said, well, they're all to blame and blah, blah, blah. She says, but, I expect the Republicans to do this. I mean, Donald Trump, he's the strong leader, and we depend on him to go down there to the Congress and tell them exactly what he wants and make them do it.
Well, that's interesting to me, though, Heather, because I'm trying to pull it up, but it's from a few weeks ago. Here it is, actually. There was a poll from YouGov that showed that only 22% of Republicans are buying the party's argument on why they're shutting down the government. And the prompt was to expand Medicaid benefits to immigrants who are, why the Democrats are. To expand Medicaid benefits to immigrants who are in the U.S. illegally. And only 22% of Republicans agreed that was their goal. Like in the voting
Didn't
base.
Did it?
Right.
And they've stopped using that. I mean, I don't see it as much. And partly, I would imagine, is also because of the sort of flood of images of ICE going after, report out today, 170 U.S. citizens have been arrested by ICE.
That's just what they could find, because nobody's keeping data on this. Because that was just what ProPublica found in public, publications and what have you.
But that just means, right? Like, the voter that you're talking about sees Trump as the fixer of even the own Republican Party. This is the thing we've been saying for years on this show, and Sam's really been on this about the separating of Trump from the Republican brand.
Yes.
The Trump voter thinks like he's going to get Republicans in line from cutting your health care. That's insane. And so the ACA thing is fascinating, because like I wish they were pushing for more, but why I think it's creating the tension you're describing is because House Republicans are panicked.
Yeah,
Panicked. They're all up in 2026. And if at the start of the year these ACA tax credits expire, that's 4 to 5 million people who could lose coverage, let alone when we're looking at the increase in premiums that would go like crazy. So they time those Medicaid cuts after the midterms. This is the pressure point, and it seems like at the very least Schumer and Jeffries understand that.
They do seem to understand it, which, is surprising. I mean, well, look, what happened last spring, and we were all, our hair was on fire over what they did by, not doing this the first time they had the chance. The logic was, and I think and it has worked out, although I doubt that it was planned this way. What happened in the interim, of course, was, all the Doge stuff, really people understood the Elon Musk weirdness that happened in the first months, but it was also the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And I think that really kind of focused the Democrats. But the big thing that focused the Democrats was Russ Vought doing the pocket rescission and just saying, I don't care what you guys appropriate. You go ahead, you do you. But I'm going to do me. And what I'm going to do is rescind whatever I feel like. I'm going to reappropriate money in any way I want. And when he did that, he showed the Democrats. And this argument, I'm seeing it in the media, and I think it may be starting to, maybe, I don't know, I have no proof of this, but it may be starting to penetrate what this really means. We can't make a deal with these people because they don't honor agreements.
Right.
They don't even honor laws that we pass and that Donald Trump signs. They won't even. So how do we make a deal here? What's the point of any of this if they won't do it? So they're standing there going, no. Russ Vought is out there saying, I'm going to cut whatever I want. What are you going to do about it? And they're kind of going, well, then we're stuck because unless you rein this guy in, we're going to have a problem.
They have not been able to square this circle, it seems to me, fully. I mean, I think we're headed in that direction you're talking about, but there seems to me to be such an opportunity to say, Russ Vought says he wants to traumatize federal workers. Mm-hmm. And when he traumatizes federal workers, he's traumatizing the people they serve, and that is the American public. That to me seems like a very easy connection to make. And then what you're also doing in that is you're able to tie it into, never mind the cuts they want to do on the ACA. There aren't going to be people to work on healthcare. They're traumatizing Medicare officials. They're traumatizing Social Security officials. Like, you can go forward with this, and particularly at a time where they're putting AI versions of Chuck Schumer saying stuff that he had not said. Maybe it was written in an article, but
I don't think so. I think they made that up.
Well, either way, it doesn't matter. Like, they don't seem to understand that the rules are off there, and it is not a big leap to say that Russ Vought wants to traumatize everybody working in the federal government. I mean, he's literally said that.
It's on film. They've got footage of him saying, and we want to traumatize
there's
people.
Such an opportunity to roll this into any pain that people are feeling from the government shutdown, and roll it into a situation because, look, in the event that we have elections in 2026 and that they're representative of how people vote, and by that I mean, redistricting, et cetera, and in the event that we have a 2028 election, and in the event that Democrats take some power over some part of government, they're going to have to, the work done here, this is not, Biden coming in during COVID and passing one bill. The amount of work that's going to need to be done, our government is in rubbles and in tatters. Yeah. And you need to now start to build a narrative that government is important in people's lives. And you have a perfect example right now of a Republican Party that wants to assault government and thereby assault the American public. They're doing it. They're like we just had the Fed chair, 2 days ago, on top of like the Fed chair was out there saying that the immigration policies are hurting the economy. Goldman Sachs is saying, that the immigration policies are taxing Americans an extra 88%. And incidentally, that tax money is being sent. $40 billion is essentially being sent to Argentina. I mean, there just seems to be a lot of material to work with. And I look at it just like, why is AOC and Bernie Sanders the only people who seem to be able to seeking a national platform to make this argument? I mean, I guess Hakeem Jeffries has said that he would debate Mike Johnson, but frankly, despite the fact that Hakeem Jeffries has all the facts, I'd be a little bit nervous about that.
Yeah.
Although I give Jeffries credit. This morning he came out against, talking about Carolyn Levitt's crazy commentary yesterday, and he said she's out of her mind. There's something wrong with her. I mean, he really used some very direct language to describe her, and I thought,
but
okay,
isn't
there's
it
a start?
Yeah, but isn't it
let's play this.
4 months too late? I mean, it just feels like he's reacting to the pressure that. Yeah, and they leaked, and just to put that Chiose, who is like a New York, I forget, is he in the city assemblyman or not an assemblyman? He works in the city councilman. Either way, he's floating a primary challenge against Jeffries, and they put out a poll about how he's 50 points behind already. But the point is like, why are they already polling internally for Hakeem Jeffries?
That's a good question.
Against a council member.
Against a council member, yeah. So sorry, Heather.
Good. That's a good question. I hadn't heard that, but yeah, it shows that there's something going on.
Yeah. Well, let's play this clip of Caroline Levitt, because I'm curious as to what your feelings are as to why they are so what is it? What's their angle on the No Kings thing? Like George Bush famously, when we had millions of people in the street in the run up to the Iraq War, he said, I'm not going to decide on some type of what did he call it? Like a focus group testing on whether I should go to war or not. I mean, of course, the other way to say that is like, well, we live in a democratic country, and if the people aren't interested in you avenging your father's honor, maybe we shouldn't do this. But they seem to be very, very worried about this No Kings rally, or they think they can make something of it. Here's Caroline Levitt, White House press secretary, yesterday on Fox News.
Proved that the Democrat Party's main constituency are made up of Hamas terrorists, illegal aliens, and violent criminals. That is who the Democrat Party is catering to, not the Trump administration and not the White House and not the Republican Party, who is standing up for law-abiding Americans, not just across the country, but around the world. And that proved that the Democrat...
Okay, first off, they're standing up for Americans all around the world. The expat constituency, or is she just she's just like in overdrive?
Maybe she wants to open borders.
They have been spending they have been spending a lot of time saying that it's all going to be Hamas people showing up at the No Kings.
Antifa, Hamas, and terrorists.
What is your sense of their angle with this?
Well, it's clearly a talking point. We know that much because every single
one of them
has come out and used this kind of incendiary language. So, I mean, it's first of all, let me just, the rank hypocrisy, and I know that hypocrisy no longer applies, shamelessness is their superpower, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the idea that after what they did after the Charlie Kirk murder, going out and, ordering their, foot soldiers to dox and, track down and inform on anybody who said something sideways about Charlie Kirk and get them fired and do all that and then with their big sanctimonious, paeans to civility and how we have to stop the terrible language. The fact that the whole leadership of the Republican Party is out there calling Democrats, not the politicians, the actual people, the protesters, the voters, people like us, we're all Hamas now. We're all terrorists. We're all Antifa. That's basically what they're saying. It's, the overwhelming, hypocrisy of that is beyond, especially after the, just don't call them deplorables. That's the only word you can't use. But in any case, why are they doing it? I think there's possibly two reasons. The first is I think that they may be trying to intimidate people into not coming out by saying, making it into this big thing. The second is, I don't know what there might be some plans. I mean, I know that Greg Abbott said today that he's sending in the National Guard to Austin for the No Kings protest.
I gotta say,
am I being paranoid?
No, I gotta say, and we were talking about this before the show. The likelihood, I mean, look, we know we have seen in the past. We saw this even during BLM. You will get agitators, instigators who will be in these crowds at times. I've seen images of like conservative influencers, all dressed in black, like they're going to do, like cat burglars. Going out there to represent Antifa, soldiers or something. The idea that there would either be a concerted effort to infiltrate these protests and create and make them violent, or the idea that there are conservative sort of self-appointed warriors who would go in there and attempt to make it violent seems to me to be more than likely.
They did it in Trump 1.0. Trevor Aronson had great reporting on FBI agents or undercover informants being sent into Black Lives Matter protests and trying to get them to incite violence. You think that with this FBI, Kash Patel, they're not trying that many, many times over? So if you're going to one of these protests, I just want everybody to be extremely careful. If anybody is trying to incite you to do anything violent or illegal, definitely don't. It could be a provocator.
And make sure also that you're videotaping what's going on there. You got your phone and whatnot. But I mean, our adopted catchphrase for the show, "Left is best," which was started as a joke, because in the wake of Trump's victory in 2016, some dude from Connecticut went to a school and vandalized the school and wrote all over it like, anarchy and left is best. And the day that was done,
like a yearbook thing.
Yeah, we started laughing because that is not and Matt, I think you're looking it up, but we can pop that up there. So this is an impulse by these people, even if it's not the FBI. There is an impulse amongst these people.
Oh, think of the Proud Boys or the Boogaloo Boys or these kind of pip folks, and they're still out there. In fact, they're reinvigorated.
Here we go.
Yeah, here it is. A grown man in Connecticut says he graffitied a playground to embarrass liberals. Left is best was the slogan, which is of course, the cri de coeur of all leftists around the world.
It gets me going every time I hear it.
You vandalized a free library.
But this is the impulse that these people have. And, I want to encourage people, go to these protests. They're going to be, if they're anything like the last one, they're just going to be, very chill protests. A lot of people are going to get out there. You're going to hear some speeches depending on, where you go. Somebody was asking, would you go to a protest at a capital versus a small town? And my answer is I would probably go to where there's, more likely going to be media. Obviously, if you can't drive, it's still good to go out to your local protest because you're going to build, within that community,
I think it matters
more people
to go to a local protest.
But either way, I think they're nervous about this idea because, in part too, because there's a lot of authoritarian stuff that's going on, and authoritarian regimes do not like there to be sort of like the opportunity to protest them. I mean, we're watching right now. They're installing at the IRS the failed so-called whistleblower who had the Hunter Biden. Yeah, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about that guy, because they've been active they've been seem to have no compunction in saying the IRS is going to go after Act Blue. It's going to go after all sorts of
Indivisible, the group I mean, they're not sponsoring the No Keen. All they're doing is organizing online, providing the mechanism for people to sign up for protests and to see where they are. That's really all it is. And some messaging coming out every once in a while. I get some text, but it's not. That's all it is. Of course, Trump says they're Antifa. This is the Antifa network that Stephen Miller is going after, is Indivisible, which you'll recall was put together after the Women's March. And it was basically just an upstart grassroots organization that, one of those that came up after when Trump was elected, that was about to get out the vote. And it has grown into this organization which organizes protests around the country. I mean, it could not be more, innocent. There's absolutely nothing about Indivisible. It's mostly, and it was started, I think, by a bunch of suburban women, if I'm not mistaken, that came out of the Women's March. This guy Shapley, it was an IRS employee who blew the whistle on Hunter Biden, and he was a big MAGA hero. They put him in, shockingly, when Trump came in, they put him in as the IRS commissioner. And everybody went, holy, what? Are you kidding? And he only lasted 3 days. And I don't know that anybody has ever figured out exactly what happened there. But he's back, and he's in the IRS again, and he is apparently going to be running this operation, which they say will include thousands of agents from the Criminal Investigation Unit. These are IRS agents who, like carry weapons and stuff. I'm surprised they're not rousting,
that's the thing.
Immigrants.
How many could be left?
Chicago.
Because they are literally out on the streets, patrolling DC at different times, or tearing mothers away from their kids.
Exactly. They're going to have a full plate. Let's put it that way. And of course, and then you have Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. He's also saying crazy stuff. I mean, right on those same talking points we were just talking about. He went on CNBC, and I think it was some podcast, maybe it was the Charlie Kirk podcast, I think, that he went on and started talking about the Antifa and the terrorists, and how they're going to go after him like they went after Al Qaeda, and they're going to use the IRS to do it. I mean, so he's totally bought into this strategy, whatever it is. And I think they're fairly serious about this. They talk, who are the things they name? It's what you said: Act Blue, George Soros, of course. I mean, the poor guy, he's 95 years old, but whatever. He's the leader of our resistance movement. Act Blue and Indivisible and some others. Well, here's the real kicker, and it just cracked me up. Apparently, the FBI went to Glenn Beck and asked him for advice on who they should go after. And I don't know. Emma, I don't know if this goes back before you're paying, close attention, because it goes back maybe 20 years. But Glenn Beck, it wasn't even that long ago.
No, it was about 15. He was on CNN, right? This is when he had CNN, or was it on Fox? I can't remember
where he moved to Fox, and and it was super popular. His show was it was the big one. I mean, it was like the Tucker Carlson of its day. And he would do this thing where he would do called the Puppet Masters. And he had a blackboard where
with
he
his
would
board
write the names.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I'm enough of a sicko to remember that, even as a 12-year-old or whatever.
If I'm not mistaken, it involved he thought in Rockefeller Center. There was a mural that laid out all the plans.
That's right.
And
it was all there.
Back then, it wasn't, Antifa, as he calls it. It was Saul Alinsky. And everybody was an Alinskyite. Everybody was an Alinskyite. And that was it. Right. Do we have this video? Let's play this video. I know we have it. It's very long. But I think
It's do you have the one with the puppets? Because he called it the Puppet Masters, and he would have these marionettes come flying down from the. I mean,
what do we
hilarious.
got? What number is it, Brian?
I didn't add it on there, but we're pulling it up right now.
Okay.
From the Hullabaloo blog.
Oh, yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess I found it. Yeah, I found it the other day. Jon Stewart did a whole parody of this that was just hilarious. He did this whole Glenn Beck thing. So, I mean, it's nuts, right? I mean, it was
Do you
crazy.
think the FBI
right?
actually showed up at his
Oh, yeah, actually, I do. This is Kash Patel's FBI.
Right,
Yeah, I
that's
do.
true.
I think they probably did.
we need some tips.
It was probably Kash himself raced over on the private plane,
Oh, and that's right. I'm getting reminded that Glenn Beck was obsessed with the acorn. And for people who don't know, I mean, this is one of the sort of like forgotten failures of the Obama administration and of that era. People talk about don't criticize Obama now, blah, blah, blah. There was a lot to criticize contemporaneously. But in retrospect, too, the loss of Democratic lawmakers on a state level was just massive. Governorships, state houses, on and on.
It was a massacre. It really was. It was
and there was a whole attitude of like every person for themselves. And so when ACORN, which was a key organization that would organize low-income people, particularly through like tenant organizations and community organizations, ACORN was targeted by what's his name, O'Keefe from Project Veritas, and they just folded the entire government.
Wasn't that the thing where he dressed up like a pimp?
I
and
think
had
that
his, and I think it was Lila Rose, the anti-abortion, activist. She dressed up like the street prostitute.
And they went into one local. I think
health
clinic
in New Orleans or someplace,
and ACORN
it was grotesque.
Was completely decimated. The funding for these organizing groups was destroyed with the complicity of the Democratic Party. And it really fundamentally undermined. It was a Get Out the Vote organization and fundamentally undermined the Get Out the Vote process and, getting people who are underrepresented to actually get to the polls. Do we have that?
Yep. We have
All
it
right,
now.
let's play some of this. Walk us through some of this, Heather.
Oh, well,
I want to show you this was just off the cuff, okay? This is how hard it really is, okay? So let's just speculate here for a minute. Let's call it a starting point for people at the FBI or Justice Department as they begin investigating leads. For far too long, the people potentially supporting Antifa have remained in the shadows. That's what Trump is going to end. Is Antifa more than just a decentralized and leaderless organization? Well, I've split Antifa up into 3 different categories: street groups and soldiers, that one, support groups, and funding sources. But let me start right at the top with the street
I
groups
guess we should just say, you can keep him up there, but we should say, kudos to him for actually calling it Antifa as opposed to Antifa.
Right. Well,
That's how you know
Trump.
he's
Didn't
done his
he change
research.
it to Antifa? Yeah.
Oh yeah, he knows how
he does his own research. Yeah,
he knows how the indigenous Antifa people pronounce it. It's anti-fascist. We should just get the Antifa Politburo to change the name to anti-fascist.
I like how this whole. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I have a very stupid remark, except to say, like, this whole aesthetic is like, it looks like CSI, right? Where they're about to say, how they're going to go after the bad guys. And it feels like he's trying to evoke a police chief as some sort of authority figure for his very elderly audience.
Exactly. And I didn't even know Glenn Beck was still around, to tell you the truth. I mean, where's he been? I know he started his own media company that kind of has,
The Blaze.
sunk into oblivion. It's The Blaze. Does anybody do anything with that. And the Antifa part, I think, is really interesting because it used to be that Antifa was a good thing, right? In fact, they used to call the people who went over to Spain to fight in the revolution against Franco. They were sort of put down as kind of commie lefties, whatever, and they called them premature anti-fascists, which suggested that being an anti-fascist, they just did it too early. But anti-fascism was a good thing, right? Because we beat the Nazis, et cetera, et cetera. Now suddenly it's bad to be anti-fascist. Go figure. Interesting, don't you think? Considering who's in charge and who's saying that. I mean, just don't call us fascists. Yeah, okay. Well, you sure ain't anti-fascist, that's for sure.
Because this is where the politicians, the media, and the think tanks say, that's the investigation. You just can investigate these guys, nothing else. Don't look here. But the groups are all over the news, going back to around 2016. Groups like Rose City Antifa Portland, Elm Fork, John Brown Gun Club.
What happened around 2016? Anyway.
Eugene Antifa, Oregon, Atlanta, Pittsburgh Antifa, Refuse Fascism, Jane's Revenge. Now, you've seen the carnage of these groups all over.
Sound like bands.
We continue to see it every day in places like Chicago and Portland, but this is where we're supposed to stop looking. I mean, they can't find anything because the trail goes cold there. Antifa is decentralized.
I see a cop.
Well, if that is true,
watch, she's gonna.
Are these guys who don't work? A lot of them are on drugs, crazy. Are they self-funding all of these things? Because how do we get to the next category, which is support groups? For instance, the National Lawyers Guild. This is the legal arm for Antifa. If you've been in a riot or seen anything on TV, you're watching on the side, there are people standing on the side and they're wearing the green hats, okay? That's the National Lawyers Guild. They openly brag about how they provide.
The best way to stay shadows, sleeper cell.
Hiding in plain sight with their brightly colored hats.
Yeah, we got the wrong green. We wanted camo.
They're making sure that people are following the law. Good.
Legal support to the street soldiers. But there's no organization in that. No. Next, we have Antifa International. This one's kind of hilarious because the people who describe Antifa as decentralized and leaderless. You have an Antifa International. I mean, it's like BLM Inc. From an Antifa fundraiser, and again, who do you write the check to? They're described as, quote, an international anti-fascist collective with years of experience managing the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund and other anti-fascist projects. So you have no central control, no base of operations or anything else, but you have years of experience managing. Really?
And a website.
How about Antifa International? Antifa International helped fundraise the Legal Defense Fund for the militants that attacked the ICE facility in Texas. And while we're at it, take a look at Community Justice Exchange.
Can you pause it for 1 second?
Yeah, come on now.
Like he is
this bullshit.
Why
funding the legal defense. Funding the legal defense is very, very different than funding them to protests. Like, there are nonprofits, there are things like pro bono work, although the Trump administration has waged war against that with all the elite law firms.
Thank you for all that pro bono work for me.
Yes.
Like the ACLU, they sometimes defend people who have done hate speech, or back in the day, they were protecting the free speech rights of people, even if it was stuff that I would think is racist or reprehensible.
They defended Nazis. They did.
They defended Nazis, but and that is a very equivalent service to the one that he's describing. But apparently, this is some international network.
I mean, everyone who has looked at any footage of these protests knows that we actually should have people there monitoring the people cracking heads, so that people aren't just victimized by them willy-nilly.
I'm sorry. Did you say the ACLU? Yes, but you also notice that is the first and last letters in Antifa. And then also,
there you
look
go.
at that. Emma. Interesting.
Oh.
Go ahead. Just go. Keep going. Let's keep going.
National
Just,
Bail
over the
Fund
target.
Network. They were bailing people out during the summer of rage of George Floyd riots. They're probably worth looking into, specifically due to their major partner, which is, oh my gosh, the Tides Foundation, our old friends at the Tides Foundation. Look, these connections, these organizations are legion. We are legion. Yeah, that's probably what they say. Anyway,
Get it, Christians? be
remember,
scared.
as per all the politicians and media experts, no centralized organization. Okay, but you have the support groups that are supporting them with no organization. And then you have this, funding sources. Now, this is interesting. Again, who do you write to check to? This is split between nonprofits and foundations, also crowdfunding sources. Now, I already mentioned the Tides
crowdfunding.
Foundation, one of the darkest of the dark left-wing radical money funnels on the planet. You know, who knows all the trails that lead back to Tides? But just for starters, let's look at these. Tides Foundation funds an organization called Alliance for Global Justice. Money from here. They
So this is just
refunnel money to groups.
This is just a big list of all the groups that Glenn Beck has been freaked out about for like his
for
entire
years.
career.
It is finally come together.
It's
On the
It's
board.
fine.
Yes.
They've finally been written on a blackboard next to the word
Yeah.
Antifa.
And the FBI is listening at long last. They are putting their faith in the man who did the work and did the research.
He's
And they
one of those
showed up at his
volunteer
house.
sheriffs. He's like those
He
volunteer, you know,
Like
wasn't that
Herschel Walker or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dean Cain.
and
Whatever
Dean
happened to
Cain.
him at ICE? Is he still there?
I think he was the guy who we watched fall.
Fall over. Yeah.
The other day.
And his gun went flying on down the street.
Yeah.
That was good.
Well,
Yeah. So this is the state of where we are in the Antifa the Antifa investigation. And they put this guy Gary Shapley in the IRS, which I would say he's just maybe a step below Glenn Beck as far as credibility is concerned. That doesn't mean that they're not going to do something, because they will. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that they can, they'll get rid of anybody who objects to breaking the law. And the law is very clear that they're not allowed to do any of this stuff in terms of investigating people just because of their, whatever their political disposition is. But they're going to do it anyway. And, I think mostly it's a PR thing. I think they're probably going to, maybe they'll go after and indict or audit some of the groups, but mostly it's just a matter of threatening people and threats and intimidation, which is what they're doing across the board. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just standard authoritarian playbook. Just get some examples out there, arrest James Comey, arrest Letitia James, threaten people with IRS audits, and a lot of that is just that at the same time, though, they actually have a police state in action in the Department of Homeland Security,
And
which
growing.
has been given a blank check.
Yep.
Apparently, to do whatever they want. And they are cracking heads. They are hurting and killing and shooting and killing people in the streets of America. That is happening. And so you put that combination together of all these threats of using the Department of Justice, the IRS, and then what's happening in the streets. And we're there now. I mean, it's fa of Antifa. It's full fa. We're full fa now.
Heather Parton, always a pleasure.
Oh, this was fun.
yes.
Yes.
Good to laugh,
back a
right?
ways, getting some Glenn Beck in there. It's been a while, so that
Yep.
was kind of fun.
But as always, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We will link to your salon.com columns and,
Thanks.
of course, Hullabaloo. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah.
And folks.
See you all in the streets tomorrow.
Exactly.
Everybody go out.
Yes.
We're all going.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.